What do you get when you combine classic analog model plugins with modern sound shaping tools? Anthology 12 by Eventide. In this video, we're going to mix a song exclusively using plugins from the Anthology bundle by Eventide. This is Alex Pro Mix. Let's go. Hey guys, what's up? This is Alex with Alex Pro Mix here on your favorite channel on YouTube, where you can learn mixing and mastering. In this special video, we're using a session where we exclusively used plugins from the Anthology 12 bundle by Eventide. If you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can download this session so you can practice mixing using these plugins. So without further ado, let's begin.
Seem to fall a little deeper into you. Every time I see your face, I kinda know it's mutual.
So here we have a singer-songwriter session with some pop elements. And as you can hear, the most important elements here are the drums, bass, vocals, and guitars. And we've gone through and used plugins from the Anthology bundle throughout everything. So just to give you guys a session breakdown, the song is called Mutual by an artist called VSR, who was generous enough to lend us this session. On the left side, you have the percussions and drums in red, followed by the bass, sample tracks, which are instruments, guitars in green, yellow for violins and strings, and then purple for vocals. To the very right of the session, you're going to have access to the effects returns. These are basically room reverbs, plates, chambers, delays, harmonizers. The only plugin that is not in the Anthology bundle is this one right here, which you guys can download as a demo. And this is basically a limiter to make our mix jump and bounce and sound and hit hard. All right, cool. So let's dive into some mixing. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is let's go ahead and loop the drum part. And let's check this out without any processing. This is before. Here we go. Now the first thing that I wanted to address was some of the noise on the kick drum, and for that I'm using split EQ. With split EQ, it's really cool because not only can you separate the transient versus the tonal elements, but you can also solo the band. So here, for example, I can isolate what frequency I want to roll off by clicking on this listen button. And typically for the low cut, I like to go right below the fundamental frequency. Here we're using another band where we're reducing some of 96 Hertz, but this is what it sounds like. And then we're using a high cut to remove some of that noise on the top. So with the EQ, the kick sounds tighter, sounds cleaner. And to give it a little bit more pump and grunge, we're going to use the Omnipressor. I own an original Omnipressor from Eventide. It's always on my rack, and these are my exact settings on the hardware. Attack time set to 10 milliseconds, release set to 100 milliseconds. On the function, this is the ratio for the compressor. This is set to 4:1. Attenuator limiter is set all the way down to -30. The gain limit is set to 0. And then all I do is adjust this threshold knob. These are my exact settings I use on the hardware whenever I'm using the Omnipressor on vocals or drums or bass. What's cool about the plugin is not only that it sounds identical, but I have multiple instances, so I can use a lot of Omnipressors in addition to the hardware unit that I own. All right, so you're going to take a look at this and see that when I start adjusting the threshold, the attenuator LED is going to light up. Even if you don't see the VU meter jump backwards, if you see this light up, then you know that you're compressing. And all we're going to do with the kick drum is adjust this threshold until we hear compression by watching this meter, but we're also going to hear the change of character of the sound. Check it out. Cool, let's check out all the drums now. On the snare drum, we use split EQ to clean up some of the transient versus the tonal aspects of it, but then we also use the precision time delay. Now the precision time delay is a utility, but if you use it in multi-mono, it allows you to offset the delay by milliseconds between the left channel and the right channel, giving you a wider effect. So before, it sounds like this. And by offsetting 3 milliseconds, you get this effect. It just pops out of the speakers and such, sounds much wider. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and bring everything in, including the effects. And let's check it out. Okay, next up, let's go to the bass. So on the bass guitar, there's a ton of stuff going on, in particular with EQ. One of the things that I like to do with EQ is not necessarily boost a bunch of stuff up, because a lot of synths and plugins and virtual instruments, they have a lot of information in them already as far as frequency. So with EQ, typically what I like to do is find those frequencies that are just sticking out too much in the mix, making the mix muddy, and then reduce them. That's why you guys see here on the 5-band parametric EQ of each channel, I'm reducing a lot of information here. And you guys are going to have access to the settings when you download this session. In the E channel, I'm also using a sidechain input from the kick drum, which is set to bus 1, and this is triggering the compressor. So every time the kick hits, the bass is being reduced by about a dB or 2 dB. Check it out. Now, because I'm reducing so many frequencies on the bass guitar, I'm missing the sense of crunch. Therefore, I'm using a parallel send for distortion. And via help of the H9 plugin series, using the crush station. The crush station allows the bass guitar to sound thicker, more present on small speakers. Now, because I am using this in parallel to the original track, I also had to put a plug in there, a utility plugin, and flip the phase. So let's check those out together. So that makes a huge difference, especially if you want that bass to cut through on small speakers. Cool, so let's check out how the drums and the bass sound like in the context of the song. Here we go. Okay, so next up, let's check out the guitars, which is the guitar plug, which is this guy right here. There was some noise on the original guitar that I didn't like, and I was able to remove that. As you can see, these are some radical EQ settings. However, none of these EQ curves are affecting the tone. They're only affecting the transient information. So if I was to bypass the plugin, this is what the original guitar sounds like. Sounds very muddy, especially on the low mids. Now that's what I love about the split EQ, is that I'm able to treat all that muddiness by using the transient EQ bands, but I'm not affecting the tone of the EQ. Now this is not really possible without the split EQ. If you were just to use a stock EQ and try these settings, your guitar would be lost. It would just be like there's no sound because you're reducing everything. But with something like the split EQ, it's amazing that you can even do this. That's followed by the Omnipressor, again with my favorite settings, which you guys are going to have: attack time 10, release time 100, and then just adjust the threshold until you see some gain reduction. Okay, so let's get into some fun of the mix. Whenever I'm working on a mix and I want to give it more interest, I think about the song arrangement. I think about what comes first, the listeners presented to the verse, then the pre-chorus, the chorus, and then that repeats and some kind of bridge. So as the listeners listening to the song for the first time, you want to take them on a journey. And so there's a part here on the arrangement where he says this word right here. Watch, let me go ahead and solo that by itself.
When I'm feeling down, I just hear your voice.
Okay, right there where he says, I just hear your voice. So I thought, what can I do to the word voice to give ear candy to the listener? All right. And one of the things that I ended up doing, not just cleaning up the EQ and that kind of thing, but all using this Octavox. By using the Octavox, I'm able to add more interest around that word and create this type of effect. Check it out.
When I'm feeling down, I just hear your voice.
That is just so cool. Because now you are adding mix elements into the arrangement, not just the arrangement, but in the lyrics of the song that just makes it another experience. So that kind of stuff is really cool. The other cool thing that I liked over here is on the guitar part. So there's a part in the song where basically everything mutes except for this little guitar part. Let me go ahead and play that for you.
You there, baby, I can't even wait. 'Cause
Okay, and that sounds very low because everything's turned down. But it's basically this little guitar part right here, which is a chord. Okay, so for this part, I separated just that chord, brought it down to its own track, and used fission, which allows me to play around with delays for both the tonal and the transient parts of it. So let's go ahead and check that out. That sounds more interesting than this. So in context of the song, this is what it sounds like.
even wait.
And again, it's just those little things that you do in the mix where it helps the song move forward. All right, cool. Lastly, let's check out some stuff that we did on the vocoder. So yes, there is a vocoder here that you guys are gonna get a chance to play with. And we are using a couple of things. This is what the original vocoder sounds like by itself. A lot of vibe, I love it. We're feeding it to a chamber plugin, or basically a reverb that has the chamber setting on it. We're using Ultraverb for that. Cool, you gotta have chamber on the vocals. And then we're cleaning up some of the resonant frequencies here on the low mids. But more importantly, we're using the H910 Dual. Now this has a mix knob, so I'll play around with this and you guys can hear what it's doing. Here we go. So yeah, vocoders with the H910, it's like two things that coexisted at one point in time. You combine those things together and they just organically match. So let's check that out in the mix. Here we go.
Kinda like to make mistakes when I'm with you, and I kinda like it now. Oh, now, baby, take me there.
So that's all the time that we have for this video, guys. I hope you were able to enjoy it and get some really cool mixing techniques out of it. But more importantly, download this session, download all the plugin settings used for this mix, and try them out for yourselves. If this is your first time watching, this is Alex Pro Mix. This channel was created for you, the artist, the producer, and the engineer. If this is your first time visiting, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share, and leave me a comment below. Let me know where you're from. Thanks again so much for watching. I'll see you again real soon. Peace.